Hey everyone, I'm Rocky for Rocky's Reviews, and today we're going to look at A Second Babel. Everybody, as I said, we're going to take a look at A Second Babel today. And A Second Babel is another game by Auroch Games, by Jome. And this one is actually a 2 to 4 player co-op game. Okay, it plays in a little under 30 minutes, and you can get it on the Game Crafter for $23.99. This game is a pretty interesting game. It's a dexterity game, a block laying game, kind of bits of Santorini, kind of a bits of Magic Maze, but I'll tell you that in a minute. So why don't we have a look at the components? All right, here we go. So as you can see, there are 60 blocks in this game. Red, white, blue, black, and then the white starter blocks over here. They are used in different contexts. So you get a 1x3 like this, you get 1x2 like these, and you get 1x1 like these. And these are the 15 millimeter blocks from the Game Crafter. Okay. We also get a dozen pawns, and in this case it's these transparent ones from the Game Crafter that I actually kind of quite like. So these are pretty cool. I always like the transparent look of these. They're called avatar pawns on the Game Crafter site. As you can tell, I'm a fan of them. I have several of my own of these, and this is a small fraction of them. But I really like these avatar pawns. They're just a little different than your standard meeple. Something you want to note about the game though, while you use these blocks in 3x1, 2x1, and 1x1, they come like this. Okay? So you need to add a little bit of your own magic here. A little bit of super glue and glue the blocks together in these configurations. So there is some assembly required in this one. And Eric, if you watch this, I would recommend maybe putting a little blurb about that in the instructions, saying you need to glue the blocks together in this format, because it goes into saying we've got large blocks, mediums, and small blocks in the instructions, but when you have a handful of blocks like this, you're like, oh, did I get the wrong ones? So just consider that when you get this game, that you're going to need to, there's going to be some assembly required. It's not bad, it's not much. And you know, who doesn't like a little craft project now and then with a little bit of super glue? But that being said, the game plays very simply, and it's a catchy little co-op game that you can play in a few minutes, and it's somewhat addictive. You know, we found that this one is actually pretty fun, and we played it several times in a row without, you know, just for fun. A couple times we didn't even keep score. But the way it works, I'm going to move these unglued ones aside here. You have a starter block, and the starter block will always be the white one. Now this isn't going to work real well on a flexible table, but what you can do is you can place one of your blocks. Let me use the blue ones so you can see them a little better. We'll place one of the blocks touching the existing block, previous one that's been laid down, and then you place one of your meeples. Now you can place it on top or anywhere that it'll sit on the blocks. Now this is interesting because the scoring for the game works in that the higher the meeples are, that's how you score. So you add up how tall this building is, which is again similar to kind of something like Santorini or other games that are dexterity games like this, Meeple Circus, for example. But the next player, when they place a block, they can place another block here, and they can either add their own meeple or they can move meeples that are already in play, which is kind of cool. If blocks fall off or fall over, for example, you can't touch them. They're done. But if a meeple falls off, you can pick it up and put it back on during your turn. That's really all there is to the gameplay itself, except for one very important note. In the manner of Magic Maze or something, you aren't allowed to communicate normally. In this one at least, though, you can point and you can speak, but it must be unintelligible nonsense, hence Babel. So while you want to try to, 4-player co-op game and try to get everybody to pitch in and put stuff in the right place, you can't communicate with normal words. You have to make stuff up. And I don't think Klingon is allowed either. Okay. So you have to play Swedish Chef when you're trying to help people decide where to put their blocks and meeples. That's the whole gameplay. And at the end, you measure up how high the meeples got, and the higher, the better. So you count all the meeples, count how high each meeple is, and that's your total score at the end of the game. It's easy, it's fun, it's pretty addictive little dexterity game. The components themselves are, they're great. Eric chose my favorite meeples, so I'm a big fan of those. And the blocks, they're nice solid blocks. They're not the tiny ones, which means you can actually build with them. You can actually set stuff on them and make, taller things. Although the assembly bit, again, that needs to be noted in the instructions. Other than that, this is a great little game. The components are simple. It has one single sheet of instructions that's 1.5 pages, front and back. Now you may have noticed this is actually an American letter size, 8.5 by 11 inches, which since the Game Crafter's in Madison, Wisconsin, that kind of makes sense. And it uses the small stout box. These small stout boxes are really great sized. They're a little bigger than the ones you'll see in the Tiny Epic games, but they're tough. I'd probably do, a trick standing up on them, but knowing me, I would fall off and break my ankle. But the small stout box you can throw in a suitcase or a backpack and take them anywhere. They're super tough. And you can probably fit, a couple things in here if you really wanted to. So all this in the small stout box for only $23.99 on the Game Crafter. Check this one out. I think this is a really good game. I enjoyed it. And of course the components, they're slick. The Game Crafter does just as good a components as anybody else, and this is a great way to get your games out there. So I hope you have a lot of fun playing Second Babel. As always, I'm Rocky for Rocky Reviews. Check out my channel where I'll do a gameplay review of this. Have fun and make awesome things.